your mat. We have a mat Pilates class today with me. My name's Mel if we haven't met before. You don't need any equipment for this class, and we're going to meet lying onto your back to start off with. Relaxing your head, neck and shoulders down onto the mat. Feet are on the mat about hip distance apart. If you'd like to keep your collarbones a little bit broader, turn those palms to face up. Keep that chin tucked in. We're going to start off with some pelvic curls. So I want you to tuck your tailbone under, press your feet into the mat and slowly lift those hips up towards the ceiling. Slowly roll that spine down, one vertebrae at a time. Tailbone's the last thing to hit. Tuck, peel, lift those hips. Hold at the top just for a couple of seconds. Slowly roll back down. Arches of the feet stay lifted. Firmly press the heels into the mat to lift. If you're struggling to get some height or you're feeling it too much in the back of your legs, I want you to bring your heels a little bit closer in towards your bottom. We want to keep our rib cage tucked in as well, lifting our hips up as high as we can, creating a nice long line from our shoulders to the tops of our knees. Press those knees out towards the edges of your mat, especially as you lower down. We'll go for two more. Slowly lift those hips. Even pressure through both feet. Last one, let's meet at the top. Push the hips up. We're going to go into a little march. So all of my weight's going to go over to my left foot so I can lift my right leg up into a tabletop position. Place that leg back down, shift the weight over to the right, left leg lifts. See if we can keep our hips lifted the whole time. You can place your hands onto your hips for a little bit of extra support. We're going to march here for 5, 4, 3, 2, placing both feet down onto the mat and slowly curl out of that pelvic curl. And let's just windscreen wiper those legs from side to side, relax through the lower back. Going to move on to some abdominal work now. Again, our shoulders and neck stay nice and relaxed onto the mat to start off with. You can turn your palms to face up. We're going to lift one leg to tabletop position. Draw your belly button in and float the other leg up to tabletop. So shins are parallel to your mat and both legs mirror each other. We're going to drop that first leg back down, drop the second leg back down, and I'm going to do that 3 more times, alternating which leg you start with. Lift, lift, lower, lower, lift, lift, lower, lower. Last one, hold in tabletop position this time, so both legs are lifted up. We're going to go into a toe tap, so tapping one toe down towards the edge of the mat, lifting back up to tabletop. Tap and lift, tap and lift. We want to focus on reaching the thigh away from the body, aiming to keep the knee roughly bent to about 90 degrees. To make it easier, you can bend the knees a little bit more, so you're decreasing that angle, and tap just a little bit closer in, so not aiming as far towards the edge of the mat. But if that's feeling pretty good for you, keep that knee bent to 90, reach that thigh away, draw it back in. We're here for another 10 seconds. Nice steady breathing for 3, 2, last one, and resting those feet back down onto the mat. Again, just windscreen wiper those legs from side to side. Just a mini break here. We are going into our dead bugs next. Lifting one leg to tabletop, floating that other leg up. Both hands go up towards the ceiling. Now the arms are an option, but we're going to extend one leg out nice and long and take that opposite arm overhead and then draw back to the center. Reaching the toes really long. To make this easier, don't lower the leg as low to the ground. Keep it nice and high. So that will just be extending the knee out straight rather than lowering the leg. As I said, the arms are an option as well. You can keep them up towards the ceiling. Otherwise, we're reaching our toes and our fingertips as far away from each other as we can, trying to keep that other hand and that other leg nice and still. Reach away and draw back to the center. Away and draw back. So let's inhale to reach, exhale to draw back. Inhale, reach, exhale. Okay, see if we can keep our toes pointed. Reach through the fingertips. Keep all that tension in the center of the body. Aiming to keep our lower back as close to the mat as we can. We're here for another 3, 2, lucky last one, and you're going to hug those knees in nice and close towards the body. You can trace little circles, a couple in one direction and a couple in the other direction. We are going to curl our head, neck and shoulders up this time. Keep the chin tucked in, okay? And let's hold on to our right leg. So I'm going to grab onto the top of my shin and I'm going to shoot my left leg out nice and long. And then from here we're going to switch. Shoot that right leg out, hug the left knee in, and we switch. We're going to continue to alternate from side to side. I want you to continue to maintain the curl. So let's lift our shoulder blades up off the mat. Nice swift changes. Pull that knee in and shoot that other leg out nice and long. Gaze should be just down towards your toes. Good way to ensure that that chin stays tucked in. Shoot that leg out. Nice swift change for 3, 2, 1. Hug both knees in, lower the head, neck and shoulders down. Return the feet back down onto the mat. Hands go behind the back of the head this time. So my fingertips are going to be supporting my head and keeping it in a nice neutral or lengthened position. We're going to curl our head, neck and shoulders up off the mat. I'm going to lift one leg to tabletop, float the other leg to tabletop. We're going back to our toe taps with our head, neck and shoulders lifted. Tap, lift, tap, lift. If you'd like to progress this movement, we're going to lower both toes down at the same time. So I tap and lift. It's quite a jump in intensity. See how you go. You can bend the knees a little bit more and tap those toes down a little bit closer in on your mat. That should make it a tiny little bit easier. Obviously making it harder, we're tapping our toes down towards the edge of the mat. It feels like our thighs are moving further away from the middle of the body. Maintain the curl if you can. That's really going to keep that connection through the center of the body. We're aiming to keep our ribs down, so hugging in and down towards the mat. Single leg or double leg. Whatever variation you've chosen today, keep those shoulder blades lifted up off the mat. Hands are keeping the back of the neck nice and long, our chin stays tucked in. Let's go for another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You can rest those legs down onto the mat, lower the head, neck and shoulders, and again we take those knees from side to side. We are going to roll onto our left hip and you're going to rest the head down onto the bicep and our hips and ankles are going to be in a line with our shoulders. And then from here, what I'm going to get you to do is go into a clam position. So open that top knee up towards the ceiling, squeezing your ankles together and slowly lower. I'm not going to be here for too long, just a little bit of a warm up through the glutes. So just opening and closing that top knee. Both sides of the waist are going to stay lengthened, so our hips are stacked one on top of the other. There should be a very small gap between your waistline and the mat. How we know we're keeping both sides nice and long and that we're using the center of our body. 2 more here, and let's hold open on that second one. We're going to kick our leg out nice and long. We're going to sweep the leg forward with our toes pointed. Flex the toes back towards you and push that heel back behind you. So from here, I should really feel like my glute is squeezing and that I can't lift my leg back any further without rolling. Point the toe to glide the leg forward, flex the foot, and it sweeps back. Toes glide us forward, heel glides us back. I want you to keep that leg in line with the body, so we're not dropping it down too low and scraping our leg just along the floor. I want you to keep it lifted. We're using the side of the hip. Glide it forward, gliding it back. Imagine that I am pulling your ankle away from you. We're constantly trying to find length through this leg, through the side of the waist. Inhale, bring the leg forward. Exhale, sweep the leg back. Inhale to come forward. Exhale to come back. We're here for another 3, 2. We're going to meet with that leg pushing back. Flex the foot, glide that leg back. Point the toes again and let's trace circles in a forward motion. About the size of a dinner plate is what we're going for here. We're circling forward for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Change direction. Circling in a backwards motion. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And resting that leg on top of the bottom leg. We're going to reach that leg forward. Come up onto your hand for this one if you like, or bring your head up onto your hand. Leg is going to be nice and straight along the mat, so this is the bottom leg that we're talking about now. I'm going to get you lifted up off the mat and slowly lower. Lift it up and slowly lower. You can rest between each lift, or if you'd like to increase the intensity, we're just going to pulse that leg. So you're not quite giving it any rest, we're just lifting and lowering in a smaller range of motion. We want to get that inner thigh nice and warm. Lifting and lowering. Letting that top leg relax. We're pulsing or lifting for another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Resting down. Nicely done. Let's come up onto the elbow. So we're lifting our rib cage away from the mat this time, and our legs are back in that clam position with our knee down. What I'm going to get you to do is reach your arm up above your head. So we're kind of lengthening through both sides of the waist again. I'm going to get you to lift your top leg out nice and long. Perfect. From here, I want you to bring the elbow and the knee together for a little side crunch, and then reach the hand and the toes away from each other. Like we did in our dead bugs, we're reaching our fingertips and our toes as far away from each other as we can. Reach. I'm slightly turning my chest down towards the mat as I reach, just so I can get a little bit more of a side stretch and work through just a bigger range of motion. Hold in that lengthened position just for a second. Feel the engagement before going back into that side crunch. What I want you to do is make sure that that supporting elbow is directly underneath the shoulder. And we want to be lifting our rib cage away as much as possible. So we're really keeping that shoulder in a happy position. Especially as you crunch, you might want to, it's tempting to let that rib cage drop as you crunch. It's putting that shoulder in a little bit of a compressed position. So let's keep lifting that rib cage up as we crunch. And then keep lifting as you reach. Crunch. And reach. 3 more. Moving at this nice, slow and steady pace. 2. Lucky last one. Crunch. Reach. And resting down. Nicely done. Over into a 4-point kneeling position. We have got some donkey kicks. So what this looks like is I'm going to be reaching my right leg out nice and long, drawing it back in underneath the body before kicking it straight back out. My wrists are directly underneath my shoulders, and if you have no troubles with your wrists, you just want to keep your fingertips nice and wide. If you do have a little bit of pain or issues through your wrists in this 4-point kneeling position, you can make a fist and lean onto your fist. It's just going to keep that wrist in a nice straight position. So that might be a little bit more comfortable for you. I'm not going to keep us in this 4-point kneeling position for too long, but we are going to be putting a little bit of extra pressure through the hands. Our left leg is stabilizing, so we're keeping that knee underneath the body, even pressure through the hands. Keep your chin tucked in, so you should just be looking down towards your mat. We're gliding that right leg in and out. We're here for another 3. Then we're going to be progressing. 2. Last one, hold that leg out nice and long behind you. Flex your toes down towards the mat and place the foot firmly onto the mat. This is where we're putting a lot more pressure through our wrists. I'm going to get you to hover that left knee up off the mat. Slowly lower. Let's lift that right leg up off the floor. Place it back down and hover that left knee. Place that back down. Lift the left leg. So we're just alternating, lifting that left knee, lifting that right foot. Lifting the left knee, lifting the right foot. A lot of pressure going through the hands. Our shoulders stay over the top of our wrists. Little lift and lower. 3 more here. Lift up and lower. Squeeze that glute. Lift, lower. Lucky last one. Little lift. Lift the right leg, lower, and draw it back in underneath the body. Circle those wrists. Beautiful job. We are going to lie back down onto our right hip this time, and we'll meet in those clam positions. Resting your head out long onto your bicep. Ankles and hips are in line with our shoulders. We squeeze our ankles together, we lengthen through both sides of our waist, and we hover that top knee up towards the ceiling before gently lowering it back down on top of the bottom leg. Lift and lower, lift and lower. Again, just using this as a little bit of a warm-up. Engaging through our big glute muscles to open that knee. It's not a very big range of motion. We don't want our hips to be rolling back. Let's go for 3, 2, 1. Hold that clam open and kick that leg out nice and long for me. Toes are pointed, we sweep that leg forward. We flex the foot and we bring that heel back behind the body. Point the toes, guide the leg forward. Flex the foot, heel pulls back behind the body. Inhale breath to sweep the leg forward. Exhale breath to sweep it back. Reaching that leg nice and long. Keep both sides of the waist lengthened. Guide that leg forward. Try not to let the leg drop. Keep it up at hip height or a little bit higher. You don't want that foot to be scraping along the mat. As we fatigue, you're going to want to drop that hip, but let's keep working into the side of the hip here. Point to guide it forward. The legs guide that foot back. Let's go for 3, for 2, lucky last 1, glide that foot forward, flex the foot, glide it back and hold, point the toes and we circle in a forward motion, again about the size of a dinner plate. Reach that foot nice and long, circle for 3, 2, 1, change directions in a backwards motion, we circle for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, rest that leg forward and let's straighten that bottom leg. We'll go into those inner thigh lifts, lift the leg up, slowly lower. Same as the other side, you can rest between each lift, or if you'd like to increase the intensity, we lift and we just pulse that leg so we don't rest between each lift. That foot stays lifted up off the mat. The knee has to be nice and straight, so we're lifting the whole leg. Again, we're really trying to warm up through the inner thigh here. Let that top leg relax as much as you can. Pulses here for your lift and lowers for another 10 seconds. Nice steady breathing. You've got 3, 2, 1 and relax that leg down. Beautiful job. We will meet in a 4-point kneeling position once more. We are going to do our donkey kicks on our left leg. So again, making sure our wrists or our fists are directly underneath our shoulders. We're going to be nice and stable through our right leg as our left leg glides in and out from underneath the hip. Gaze is just down towards the mat. Again, we're keeping the back of the neck nice and long. Trying not to look forward. Looking down. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. Try to relax as much as possible. You've got your hands flat. Try spread the fingertips nice and wide and gently grip onto the mat. If you're in your fists, just making sure again that the wrists are straight and they're directly underneath your shoulders. We'll lift for another 3, 2, 1. Keep that leg up nice and long. Flex the toes down towards the mat and firmly place them onto the mat. Lift that right knee up off the mat. Place it back down. Lift that left foot up off the mat. Place it down and go back into the lift. Alternating from side to side. A lot of pressure again going through those wrists. Make sure the shoulders stay over the wrists. Even as you lift, they're not really moving too much. Doesn't matter how high you lift that knee as well. We just want to press the mat away. Tuck that knee in to lift. Exhale, lift, lower, lift, lower, exhale, lift. 3 more here, lift, lift. 2, lucky last one, lift, lift, and draw that leg back in, little rolls of the wrist. Good job. We are going to come up into a high kneeling position this time. We're going into a hinge exercise. So this is really good for your knee strength, and it's quite an intense stretch through the quads. So what you want to do is keep the tailbone tucked under, so I've got tension in the glutes, and I want to try to keep the tops of my feet pushing down into the mat. That's going to be my base of support, and I do have my knees directly underneath my hips, so it's not a narrow stance, it's quite a wide stance. My hands are going to be reaching forward as a counterbalance, and then we're going to be hinging from the knees. So my torso is going to stay nice and straight. Reaching forward, I'm going to lean back. So this is encouraging a stretch down the thighs. My hips are pushing forward, that's how my glutes are engaged, and I'm really making sure that my tops of my feet are pressing into the mat. And then from here, I'm going to bring my rib cage back over the top of my hips as I come up into our high kneeling position, or our starting position. So again, we lean back from the knees and coming up nice and tall. Lean back from the knees, hips press forward. It's really common to want to keep your hips over the tops of your knees and just lean back with your back, but that's not what we're doing today. We want to keep our ribs over the top of our hips, bend from the knees, and straighten. Imagine that we're just decreasing that angle between your calf muscle and your hamstring muscle. Decrease that angle, and up nice and tall. As you get a little bit more confident, you can lean back a little bit more. Keep the ribs over the top of the hips. So really think about crunching those ribs in. That'll prevent you from arching through the back, because that's opening up through the rib cage. Close the rib cage. You can even place your hands onto your ribs if you like. I like to have my thumbs on my ribs and my fingertips down towards my hip bones, and I'm trying to keep that space closed. You might want to have one hand on your back, one hand on your belly. Again, just being mindful of where that hinge is coming from. A couple more here. Leaning back for 2, lucky last one, leaning back, up nice and tall. Beautiful job. Let's meet in a 4-point kneeling position just for a cat-cow stretch, not here for too long. Rounding through the belly or dropping the belly, and then lifting the belly. Shine that chest forward, and then dome through the back. One more each way. Drop the belly and lift the chest. Rounding through that spine. Excellent. Let's lie flat onto our stomach now. We are going into some upper back work. So what I want you to do is think about pushing the tops of your feet into the mat like we just did in our hinge. And my legs are engaged. I'm not squeezing my glutes too much, but I'm engaging the bottom half of my body because I don't want it to move too much. From here, my chin is staying tucked in because I'm looking down towards my mat, and my fingertips are in line with my eyes on my temples, and I'm just going to leave them resting on the floor to start off with. I'm going to make sure my shoulders are relaxed and down, and my chest is slightly lifted up off the mat. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift my hands up as well. So I'm in this hold position. I'm going to straighten my arms out into a T shape. I'm going to bring it back to what we'll call a W shape. And then we're going to lift the arms up and create a Y shape. Draw those elbows back down into your W shape. Bring them all the way back down this time. So we're squeezing our shoulder blades. And then we're straightening out into a T shape. Bring it back to the W, reaching overhead into a Y shape. Draw it back down into that W shape. Bring the shoulders with you, elbows as low as you can, before straightening the elbows out into the T. Bend the elbows and then straighten them overhead. Bring the elbows all the way back down, straighten into the T. We're always transitioning through that W shape, resetting those shoulder blades. So bring them all the way back down, especially before we go overhead. We're really challenging our back muscles here, our shoulder blade muscles. Bring those elbows all the way down, our shoulders will follow. Back of the neck is still nice and long. Legs are staying engaged, we don't want them moving. All the work in the back today. Nice, steady breathing. You don't have to do a nice shallow or a narrow Y. You can keep it out quite wide, so 45 degrees. Kind of play around with the angle and what's going to be best for your shoulders. T, W, Y, W. Let's keep going here for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, resting down. Let's go into a cobra pose. So again, the fingertips are around temple height. Keep the chin tucked in, hips stay on the mat, and we just lift up into that nice back extension. Keep the chin tucked in. It's really tempting to want to lift the head up as well, but we're not stretching the front of the neck at the moment. I want you to keep the back of the neck nice and long. So if you just keep your gaze down towards your mat. You want to roll through that stretch a couple of times as well. To decrease the stretch, reach your hands further forward, and to increase, bring them in a little bit closer underneath the shoulders. You'll lift up a little bit higher. Play around, slowly ease into the stretch. Keeping those hips on the mat. One more. Pressing up, holding that nice back extension. Alrighty, bring it into a side plank. So we're going back onto our right side. We're going to finish off with our oblique crunches and our lifts. So we're going to extend our arm overhead and our top leg out nice and long. We're reaching the fingertips and the toes away from each other. We're going to bring the elbow and the knee together for our side crunch, and then slightly turn that chest down towards the mat to get the maximum stretch. Bring the knee and the elbow back together and reach. Just like we did on the other side, we do want to keep the rib cage lifted up as high as we can so we're not compressing through our shoulder joint. And we're moving at that nice, slow and steady pace. Bend, extend, bend, and reach. Good. Shoot that leg out nice and long. We're aiming to keep it just in line with that hip as well, so we're not tapping the toe down onto the mat. Keep lifting. It's really tempting to drop that waist. 3 more. Last 2. Finish up your last one. Side crunch, extend, and back onto the mat. Let's meet in a kneeling position. One foot is going to be forward, one knee stays on the mat. With our hip flexor stretch, we tuck our tailbone under. We slightly push the hips forward. We're going to turn this into a little bit of a cat-cow stretch as well. So I want you to bring your hands together in front of you, and we're going to round through our spine, so dropping our chest down. And then what I want you to do is straighten up again and open the arms out nice and wide. Again, we find that W shape. Close the hands around the spine. And then sitting up nice and tall, open the chest. Find a little bit of a back bend so you can really open the chest up towards the ceiling. Close it back off. Think about tucking that tailbone under to round through the spine as much as you can. And one more, open up nice and tall. From here, I want you to rotate towards the bent knee. So rotating over that front knee. The arms go out nice and wide. I found that rotation. If you want a little bit of support in this position, one hand goes behind your back and the other hand on the outside of that knee. And you might want to find a little bit more of a rotation by pressing that hand and that knee together. Slowly unwind and let's switch sides. Other leg comes forward, tuck the tailbone, push the hips forward slightly, find that hip flexor stretch first. And we'll do 3 rounds of that cat-cow, so hands come together. We drop the elbows around through our spine. And then open up, find that W shape. Drop the elbows around through the spine. Open up nice and wide. Last one. And we're going to find that twist on this side. So let's open up nice and wide. Again, rotate over that bent knee or the front knee. For a little bit more support in this position, one hand on the outside of the knee, other hand on the lower back, and you can push the hand and the knee just gently, adding a little bit more rotation. Try to soften on the exhale breath. Slowly unwind. Thank you so much for joining me for that mat Pilates class. If you really enjoyed this class, make sure to check out the other classes. There's a few full-length mat classes. There are a few little short classes, some stretch classes, kind of a little bit of anything for whatever mood you're in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you on your mat next time.